You held the door open. She walked through without looking up. That was it. That was the whole interaction. You spent the next 10 minutes replaying it, looking for the mistake, the thing you said, the way you looked, the moment you lost her. There wasn't one. She didn't reject you. You didn't register. Not because of what you lacked, because of what you hadn't built yet. Most men think attraction changes because women change. It doesn't. The signal changes, and at every level of wealth, people respond to that signal differently. Not because they're calculating, because that's how humans work. Signals get read before people do. Let's go level by level. You are 22 years old, Toyota Corolla, 2009. One door lock works. The other one you stopped thinking about 6 months ago. You share an apartment with 2 guys from college, $47 in your account until Friday. You're not miserable. You're just starting. You go to a house party on a Saturday, you know maybe 4 people. You see a woman across the room. You wait for a gap. You walk over. You talk for about 4 minutes about something neither of you will remember by Monday. Then her friend appears. She turns. She goes. She doesn't look back. You stand there and do the thing every man does at this level. You run the tape. You look for the error, the joke that didn't land, the pause that went too long. Here's what the tape actually shows. Nothing went wrong. That's the problem. Nothing registered strongly enough to go wrong. Psychologists call this the minimum viable signal problem. In a crowded room, a person consciously processes maybe 4 or 5 strangers. You didn't make that list. Not because of the $47, because you had no clear signal of anything. Not competence, not direction, not warmth, not confidence. A blank page. Blank pages don't get read. Here's the part nobody tells you at 22. The answer is not money. Not yet. A 2010 study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that in low-resource environments, confidence and social ease were the primary drivers of initial attraction. Men who held steady eye contact, took up space without apology, spoke like they expected to be heard, rated significantly more attractive, regardless of income. The $47 didn't lose that conversation. The signal did. But here's what's also true. The signal is hard to build when you're spending all your energy on survival, when you're calculating whether you can afford the Uber home, when the background hum of not having enough takes up the bandwidth that confidence needs to run on. That's not a character flaw. That's just what zero feels like from the inside. You walk home that night, 12 blocks. You didn't call the Uber. You think about what you're going to build. Not in a grand way. Just a quiet, specific thought. Something has to change. Not because of her, because of the feeling. You have a paycheck now. Direct deposit. Every 2 weeks. The number isn't exciting, but it doesn't have a countdown anymore. It just sits there. Stable. You move into a studio apartment. 1 room. Yours. The door locks, and the silence on the other side belongs entirely to you. That silence is worth more than the rent. You fill your gas tank all the way for the first time in 2 years. You watch the numbers climb past half and keep going. You let it hit full. Small thing, doesn't feel small. You update your dating profile, same face, same person, but the background changed. No more bedroom wall, coffee shop, a park, somewhere that looks like someone who goes places. You add your job title, matches go up. Not dramatically, measurably. She replies the same day now. Almost always. It doesn't feel like you got more attractive, it feels like you became legible enough to respond to. That's exactly what happened. A 2012 OkCupid study of 4 million users found that income affected response rates for men, but only up to one threshold. Can this person sustain independent living? Above that line, additional income had almost no effect. What kept mattering above the baseline? How you wrote. Message quality. Humor. Specificity. Those 4 things explained more variance in response rates than income jumps of $20,000. You're above the baseline now. The tool you're underinvesting in is language. You go on dates, you pay for most of them, but you start noticing something. Some of them let you pay without any reciprocal gesture. No offer for the next round, no thank you dinner, just a clean receipt and a smile. Those tend to be the same ones who introduce you to their friends as a non-specific figure. This is, we've been hanging out, not your name, not something real about you, a category. You file that. Not because it makes anyone a villain, because it's useful data. The useful question isn't why isn't she investing in me? The useful question is, am I the kind of person someone would want to invest in? At 35,000, the honest answer is partially. You're building. That's not a failure, that's the job. But something else happens at this level that nobody talks about. You exist as background now, not invisible, not foreground, just present, like furniture that does its job. Nobody thinks about it. You feel this at a mutual friend's party. You're talking to someone, she's engaged, then someone else walks in. Someone with a louder signal, her eyes move, not rudely, automatically. You keep talking, you finish the conversation, you drive home in the Corolla. Becoming visible is not the same as becoming chosen. She stopped automatically filtering you out. Real progress. But the filter changing is not the same as the decision being made. Most men at 35,000 mistake being considered for being wanted. That confusion is expensive. You are legible now. Not rich, not impressive, legible. Strangers can read you quickly without needing more information. 1-bedroom apartment. Furniture that matches for the first time. Not because you planned an aesthetic, because you had enough time and money to replace things until they made sense together. The couch you bought because you liked it. Not because it was cheapest. You're at dinner. First date, she asks what you do. You say software engineer. Her posture shifts. Not dramatically. 2 inches forward, weight redistributing toward the table. A small recalibration in real time. You see it. You don't say anything. Here's what's actually happening. She's not calculating your salary. She's updating her model of your trajectory, your stability, your capacity to build something forward. Evolutionary psychologists call this resource acquisition potential. Shows up consistently across cultures, tracked in studies from David Buss spanning 37 countries over decades. But here's what those same studies show that almost nobody quotes. Resource acquisition potential ranked differently at different relationship stages. Short-term, physical attractiveness weighted heavier. Long-term partnership, resource potential, and emotional stability gained weight. The 2-inch lean isn't greed. It's her long-term instincts activating in the presence of a new signal. Understanding that doesn't make it less real. It makes it less personal. 3 weeks later, your phone buzzes. A name from 2 years ago. Before the job, before any of this. Hey stranger, how have you been? You look at the timestamp, 4 hours after you got tagged in an industry piece on TechCrunch. Small feature, your name in a list of engineers to watch. 4 hours. You sit with that, not with anger, with clarity, because you've done the same thing, seen someone's name somewhere, remembered them differently, reached out in a way you wouldn't have 6 months earlier. You know exactly how it works. It runs below conscious awareness in both directions. It's not a character flaw in her. It's not a character flaw in you. It's just what signals do when they get louder. You don't reply. Something else happens at this level nobody prepares you for. She asks what you want for dinner, not suggests, asks. Genuine question, waiting for your answer. You pause longer than you should, because it's the first time the question felt like it was actually about you, about what you want. You pick a place. She says, great. You sit with that small exchange longer than makes sense. But here's the layer underneath the layer. Your bank account grew faster than your self-image did. The number says 100,000. The person carrying it still flinches slightly when the check comes. Still over-explains himself on dates. Still catches himself being grateful when someone shows interest, instead of simply noticing whether the interest is real. Calibration lag. Your external signal upgraded. Your internal sense of what you deserve hasn't caught up. And she can feel that gap before you can name it. Some women find the gap endearing, something to move toward. Others read it as instability. The question isn't which reading is right. The question is whether you can close the gap yourself, before you need someone else to do it for you. You open a blank document one Tuesday night. You type 2 questions. What am I building? Who do I want to be when I get there? You don't answer them that night, but you don't close the document either. Something shifted, not in the account, in the room. You walk into places differently now, not with arrogance, with weight. There's a specific quality to moving through a space when the math isn't running underneath everything, when survival isn't using most of your bandwidth. People feel that before you say a word. Nice apartment now. Downtown. Decent view. The couch is West Elm. You don't remember deciding to upgrade. One thing replaced another until the room looked like it belonged to someone who'd thought about it. You stopped checking prices at restaurants. Not because you're rich, because checking started to feel like a tell. You're at a house party. Mutual friend. She's been talking to you for 20 minutes. Genuinely engaged. Good conversation. Her friend walks over. She turns. Oh, this is job title first, then your name. Title first. Name second. You hear the order. You file it, not as an insult, as information about the center of gravity in how she's holding you. 3 days later, conference after party, rooftop, open bar, a woman puts herself into your line of sight. Confident. Well prepared in a way you'll understand better later. First question. Are you a founder or investor? Not what's your name. Not how do you know the host, founder or investor. You feel attractive for about 10 seconds. Then the order of questions replays. Her interest was genuine. The framework underneath it was also structural. Both things true at the same time. Holding both without collapsing into cynicism. That's the skill this level is asking you to develop. The napkin with her number is in your jacket pocket. You don't call. First time you consciously chose to distinguish between someone seeing you and someone seeing what you represent. That distinction is going to matter more and more. Here's what 300,000 doesn't advertise. It's the first number that looks like wealth from the outside. The pretenders get loudest here. Not because they're bad people, because this is the first level where the performance makes economic sense. She laughs a little harder than your jokes deserve. She agrees more than any person genuinely agrees with anyone. Always available. Plans never canceled. And if you're not paying attention, you mistake frictionless availability for genuine connection. Here's how you tell the difference. Create inconvenience, not cruelty, not games. Just be unavailable sometimes. Have an opinion she doesn't share. Need something from her that costs her something small. Watch what happens. Some people absorb it without calculation. Show up anyway. The relationship has the same texture with friction added. Others recalibrate. The warmth has a thermostat. One morning she stays over. She wakes up before you. You hear her move. Then a pause. You open your eyes slightly. She's standing in the middle of the room, looking at the apartment, the view. Then she looks at you. 1 second, maybe 2. She doesn't know you're watching. You close your eyes before she can tell. You lie there with that image. The apartment first, then you. You don't say anything about it. Not that day, not later. You just add it to the file. You don't say the number out loud. Not to friends, not to family, not on dates, not because you're humble, because you've learned what happens when people know. The energy changes. The ask arrives faster than you expect. From directions you didn't anticipate. People who never called start calling. People who were distant become warm in a way that has a texture you've learned to recognize. You keep the number quiet. That's the first new skill 1 million teaches you. Privacy as protection. You've been seeing someone for 3 months. One evening she brings up the trip to Sedona. You mentioned in passing. Once. Weeks ago. She remembers the resort name, the dates, the view from the room. You're impressed she remembered. Then you realize something. You told her that same night that your dog died. 12 years. Same dog since college. She didn't mention it. Not that night. Not once after. She remembered the resort. She didn't remember the loss. You didn't say anything. You just filed it. A lawyer appears. Not because anything went wrong. Because at this asset level, combining a life with someone without legal clarity is statistically correlated with catastrophic outcomes for both people. The prenuptial conversation arrives before the relationship is fully decided. The legal architecture under construction before the emotional architecture is complete. That's what money does to the timeline. It accelerates the institutional layer faster than the human layer can keep up. You go to a party in a higher tax bracket. Nobody asks what you do. That question belongs to a lower level. Here they ask where you went to school, which fund you're with, who you know in common. Same spreadsheet, upgraded software, same function. Your mother calls on a Sunday. She asks when you're going to find someone nice. You sit with the word nice longer than she expects. At 35,000, nice meant kind. At 100,000, nice meant interesting. At 300,000, nice meant ambitious. At 1 million, Nice means something you can verify. And verification is the problem, because you can now afford every proxy for nice. The restaurant, the trip, the gesture. You can produce the conditions that used to reveal character because they were difficult. Now they're just expensive, and expensive isn't difficult. You've lost the instrument, you lost the $14 bar, the drink you bought at 22, the small, honest gesture with no downstream implications. $14. Real data, uncontaminated by stakes too small to perform for. At 1 million, every gesture has a downstream. The dinner signals trajectory, the trip signals priority, the birthday signals whether you were paying attention. Nothing is small anymore. And when nothing is small, you can't see clearly. Then one afternoon, you're sitting with your phone looking at a message and you realize something uncomfortable. You're using proxies. Same proxies you spent years frustrated about being filtered through. Network, trajectory, what this person represents versus who this person is. You're running the exact same process. From the other side now, you put the phone down. You sit there for a while. A woman you slept with once, months ago, different city, texts your new number, a number she shouldn't have. Hey, just saw the news, congrats. 5 words, professionally warm, perfectly calibrated. You think about how she got the number for a moment, then you stop thinking about it. People always find the number, they always do at this level. You don't reply. You start dating someone with her own money, real money, built money, not inherited, not adjacent to someone else's. Hers. For the first time in years, the financial dynamic is close to mutual. The transaction hypothesis loses its grip. The question of why she's here has fewer obvious answers. You exhale. Then you're at dinner. 4 people. Nice place. A friend is introducing the 2 of you to a couple they know. She speaks first. He's my portfolio, not my partner, not his name. My portfolio. She catches it immediately, corrects herself, moves the conversation forward. But the word already landed. You don't make it a thing, you pour more wine, you ask the other couple about their work, but you sit with it later. Because here's what that moment revealed. Not about her character, about the altitude. Even at financial parity, the appraisal continues. It just changes its object, moves from money to social capital, to trajectory, to what being with you represents. You represent all 3 in quantities that are hard to separate from you as a person. That's not her fault, that's the altitude. A month later, you're at her place, late, quiet evening, 2 hours of conversation about nothing in particular. The comfortable kind, the kind that means you've stopped performing. You tell her about your father, not the polished version, the actual one. The relationship that didn't resolve cleanly, the things left unsaid. She listens, really listens. Then she cries, quietly, just for a moment. She doesn't make it about herself. She lets the weight land. It's genuine. You know it's genuine. And sitting there in that genuine moment, a thought arrives you didn't invite. Am I letting her in right now? Or am I watching to see what she does with this? The honest answer is both. At the same time, in the same moment, you are letting her in, and you are also watching. The watching doesn't cancel the letting in. The letting in doesn't eliminate the watching. You have become the person you were frustrated by at 22, not a villain. Just someone with more to protect and less tolerance for getting it wrong. You reach over and squeeze her hand. She squeezes back. The moment is real. The awareness underneath it is also real. Both things. Same time. The people who are genuinely present at this level. Not managing a position. Not running a long horizon strategy. Just actually there. Almost always share one characteristic. They were there before the signal was this loud. The person who knew you when the Corolla had one working door lock. Who sat with you at 100,000 when you were still figuring out if you deserved it. Who heard the actual version of the story about your father before you had language to protect yourself with. Those people require no analysis. You have the data. Long-term. Pre-signal. Uncontaminated. Everyone else arrived after the room got loud. That doesn't make them wrong. It makes the math visible. One night you're driving home alone. You pass the neighborhood where you lived at 35,000. You slow down without deciding to. The building is still there. One window on the 4th floor has a light on. Someone up late, working, worrying. You sit at the light longer than you need to. You think about what that version of you wanted. Not the money. The money was always a proxy. What he actually wanted was simpler, to be seen. Not as a category, not as a signal, not as a portfolio, just seen by someone who found him interesting before they knew what he was building. The light changes, you drive, you open that document later, the one from 100,000, the blank page, 2 questions. What am I building? Who do I want to be when I get there? You answered the first one a long time ago. The second one is still open. Not because you failed, because every level added another layer between the question and the honest answer. Because building the thing required so much attention that the person doing the building sometimes got left behind. But the question is still open. That matters. Closed questions don't keep you up at night. Open ones mean you're still becoming something. Still becoming. That's not a failure. That's the most human thing about you. Somewhere right now there's a 22-year-old standing in an elevator, one good shirt, $47 until Friday. A woman gets in, he says, "Hey." She looks at her phone, 4 floors, doors open. She walks out, he stands there after the doors close, and does what every man does. He looks for what he did wrong, he didn't do anything wrong, he just doesn't have a signal yet. What he doesn't know, what nobody tells you at 22 in that elevator, is that the signal isn't the point. The signal is just the beginning of a much longer question. A question that gets harder to answer, the louder it gets. The question isn't, how do I get her to see me? The question is, who is the person I'm asking her to see? He doesn't know that yet. He'll spend the next 20 years finding out, and somewhere around year 15 he'll realize something quietly. The woman in the elevator was never the story. He always was. The elevator opens on his floor. He steps out. The machine is already running.